Hi, I'm Neil, and in this video, I'm just going to show people what can be done in a hybrid lesson. So it's part live, part recorded. Um, I'm live in order to support the students at any point. And the idea of it is just kind of show what activities you can use in order to track their progress, ascertain how well they're doing, but also to keep that engagement. It's never be the same as being a teacher in the classroom, but what are the alternatives? So this is all done from one 50-minute lesson. It's a long way off perfect, but it's to give you an idea of how these lessons could be run. So we're going to look at density and what the point of density is. We'll start by looking at a satsuma. Now, as scientists, what we do is we measure things so we can compare one thing to another. So what might I measure for the satsuma? So here's a quick question for you. If I put the satsuma in the water, will it float? So in order to find out what the students are thinking, we could run a live poll, which we can run out from Google Meet. And you can see that the majority of them felt that the orange wouldn't float. We can actually then discuss why, how, etc. See, and the answer is, yes it does. So if I put it in, does a peel satsuma float or not? Have a think. So these polls can be run at any time, so we can actually see how the students change in attitude and change in thinking as we go through the lesson. So here's the question. What property is it that decides whether it floats or it sinks? It's not the mass, and it's not the volume. Polls can be useful for getting the whole class ideas, but we can use individual thinking using the class questions. Note from the profile picture I've seen a BMXer, and I've had to engage this student by talking about BMXs. We could talk about the answer to this question in the whole class. I use Quizlet a lot in my live lessons. And so what does density mean? Well, density is the amount of mass within a given volume, a ratio of the mass to the volume. That's what it's a measure of. Mass. Quizlet has a matching activity that's timed and ranked. Oh. Density of water is 1 gram here, and density to there. And it looks to me like Jake's already got in there and taken the top spot. Could people try and beat Jake, please? So the flashcards and match are very, very good at learning knowledge, but we've also got a quiz called a live. And what the students do for this is they sign up for it. They can use pseudonyms when they sign up, but when it actually creates the names for the live quiz, you can see that they're anonymous. And what happens is the students in this case have got to answer 12 questions, and we can see they're competing against each other. So lots of engagement in this. In order to actually move forward, obviously they need to get a question right. But if they get a question wrong at any point, it goes right back to zero, and it keeps them on the ball very much. I find it an interesting alternative to Kahoot. Obviously, when teaching online, it's very difficult to see what the students are doing, but Quizlet Classroom actually allows me to see that students have done learn, flashcards, match, etc. The classroom analysis is very, very useful because I can see from the activities we've done how many people have actually struggling and what areas they're struggling in. So I can't do real experiments, but I can do simulations. Got a styrofoam block. Okay, so this is 0.15 kilograms a litre. Water, remember, is 1 kilogram a litre. So if I drop this in, will it float or will it sink? Well, it floats. What happens if I put it underwater? It bounces up. If I want to measure its density, okay, I have a mass for it. To measure its volume, I had 100 litres to start with. When I put it underwater, 105 litres. So my volume is the difference between the 100 and 105, which is 5 litres. So if I were to do 0.75 divided by 5, it would give me 0.15. To support some of the weaker students, I can also use an iPad. Density is mass divided by volume, or shared with volume. And there's a couple of things I want you to notice about this, is that mass, remember, it's the amount of matter in a body, is measured in grams or kilograms. And what we have is volume is measured in centimeters cubed. So when we actually want to know, well, what's density measured in, well, I can divide those two in the same way. So I can say, well, density is just grams per centimeter cubed. And per, I think some people haven't actually really understood this properly. Per effectively means divided by. So if a question ever asks you what's the density and it gives you G per centimeter cubed, you can immediately go, well, it's got to be that G measures mass. It has to be mass per divided by, shared with, and we know that is volume. So if I know the units, I can work out what the equation is. Now, these explanations can be recorded and the students have access to them at any point. So during the investigation, or when they're trying to actually solve the problem, they have access to the support materials. So what's stopping mass being on its own is this volume. I need to get rid of that. And the easiest way to get rid of it is to times top and bottom by volume. So if I do mass times volume here, then it goes. In the same way, if I multiplied a half by 2, the 2 disappears. The 2, does it equal D over M? A poll would tell me what the students are thinking, but if I use chat, I can actually see what their names are. However, some students do not want to contribute on chat because that puts them out there. They carry out the simulation themselves, but first I talk through it. And so we've got same mass, same volume, same density. We can have a look at this. So if they're the same mass, then we should know that the bigger ones, bigger volume ones, would be less dense. So the big one is more likely to float, and the small one with the same mass, just knock them in, are likely to sink. When I look at the same volume, they're all the same volume now. So for that volume, which ones are more likely to sink? 5 minutes to do the test. I give my students lots of low stakes testing. I also make some of the tests very hard, and so they get used to failure at the first attempt. And then we keep going over things, and as we go over it, they can actually see their improvement, and I can see the improvement through graphs as well. What I love about Google Forms is it gives me a breakdown of the difficulties. So which questions did most of them get wrong? So you can see 6 out of 23 got the boxes submerged question. Diagnostic questions tell me not just that they're wrong, but also why are they wrong. So if you look at this question here, you can see some of the students are just dividing one number by the other number without understanding about the water displacement. So these questions allow me to work out what strategies they're using. What are they doing? Are they just dividing one number by the other? It's not just a case of getting them right or wrong. And I can look for deeper conceptual understanding, like this question, and you can see that 40% of them got it right. Now, obviously you need to bear in mind that 25% could choose it just from a random point of view, so this looks like a pretty major problem. But individual performance and feedback can be commented on, possibly one of the most powerful aspects of Google Forms, as the name of the student there, and I can give individual feedback on each question, enabling to give very, very targeted support to students. If I sound a bit strange, but I always wave hello and I wave goodbye to them. Don't get stressed. Okay, I'm going to wave goodbye to you now. Thank you guys, you've done amazing. Submit the end of that test. We're going to go look at some more of that tomorrow, and by the time we've done 3 lessons on density, guarantee you will have nailed it. So bye everyone, thank you very much.
Thanks.